to expect or what the customer should do. The reality, the onus is not only on these guys, the onus is on us. We also, as customers or as people traveling, have to take all this into consideration. Is it scary? Of course it is. But again, it's a reality. If we take care of it and know what to expect and what we should do, I'm telling you, I am going to be on the first plane going to Jamaica on the 15th of June. I've already booked my flight. Now, the problem is convincing my 88-year-old mother to let me go, but no, that's a different story. But we are seeing bookings, we are seeing customer going, but what we're seeing is they're asking a lot of questions, which is what we want, because you don't want customers to go not knowing what to expect, be disappointed or not be prepared. So I caution everybody, we're all traveling. It is opening up. The islands, we know that in June we have to Europe 3 destinations that have opened. I think it's Paris, London, and I think it's Frankfurt with Air Canada. We know the Caribbean, we have Cuba, Mexico, and Jamaica. Travel is happening. We just have to be very, prepared and cautious of what we wear, what we touch, and what we do, and just make sure we take all these measurements into place.
Okay, thank you, Zeina. And Wolf, how do you see the future of travel and all your experience in Europe and other destinations with guided vacations and groups of people are a whole different ballgame, different than individual travel. So how do you see that playing out?
Very much so, Derek. And this is really a situation that has never happened before because this time around, it is not a particular region of the world, but it is really the whole world. And for a tour operator of guided vacations such as Trafalgar, who goes to all of the continents of the world, does from single country tours and guided vacations to regional, to multi-country, to intercontinental, this does represent a conundrum of different situations and levels of COVID-19 situation in different countries, and also of different governmental regulations that we have to take into account when starting to work on a rebirth of travel. And why do I use word rebirth? The travel will never be the same. Every crisis begets a new set of coping mechanism and adaptation within human race. If we go back to 9/11, the safety measures have drastically changed. This time around, and say after SARS, quite some health precautions have changed. This time we have a profound change of how we travel, number one. Number two, how do we open up in very well thought out, driven by World Health Organization protocols, driven by our corporate protocols, also driven by the host country and destination protocols. How do we open that up and restore the confidence in our travelers that we have done our due diligence, our partners have done our due diligence, and we have ensured maximum safety of our guests, maximum care of our employees and of our partners. And when I look at the bigger picture and when I look at the horizon ahead of us, I would say that what comes to mind as something and what we work on is the rebirth of domestic travel with right-sized groups for, in case of Trafalgar, Canada, for Canadians to discover in Canada something that they have neither had time, possibly, nor may have had an opportunity to research deep enough to find these hidden gems that we have in this country. The next step, hopefully, will be the establishment of certain bubbles or corridors where we can take a guest in a manner that we all deem is compliant with all of the protocols. So that will be potentially some countries of the European Union, although they're not still under the same regulation, but we are all seeing that Greece is gearing to open. We are seeing that Portugal is in very good shape. In my book, Ireland has a very good opportunity to become a very attractive destination because they have had a good track record of managing COVID epidemic, and their government was exceptionally involved on all levels, from prime minister to local and regional authorities. And because, as you have mentioned, we are known as an operator that would carry groups, we would certainly right-size groups to provide for physical distancing when traveling, when selecting the attractions we're going to visit. And that's why I say Ireland and countries like that, but Ireland in very much so is an ideal destination. This does not rely only on one big urban center as a point of interest, but is really a beautiful combo of small-sized town, mid-sized towns, wonderful wildlife, Wild Atlantic Way, Killarney, Ring of Kerry, and clearly we always want to establish a level of connection with local people. And down the road, we know that our guests, Canadians especially, like to know that they are contributing in some way to the well-being of the local host. So we're looking at community engaging opportunities for our travelers. So yes, it has been different way of us doing business, but we've been very, very busy in evaluating, reviewing, and then planning, and really looking to think very much out of the box and to innovate on how are we going to travel on Trafalgar or cost saver guided vacations.
Okay, I'd just like to say there's a couple of people on there as well. So if you have any questions, if you can just go to the chat on the bottom and you can write your question in, and then we'll relay your question from there. Zeina, one question that came in earlier from somebody that is probably listening on via Facebook right now, is the whole physical distancing part of life that we're having to become accustomed to. How do you see in the foreseeable future how companies are going to be able to tackle that particular question, and how do you think they'll be setting up their operations in order to make people feel that the physical distancing is a comfortable way for them to travel?
So everybody, based on all the conversations and what the different airlines or the hotels have said, so we know now all the major airlines in the world are leaving the empty seat empty, the middle seat empty. So that allows some distance. We know that even at airport, if anybody's going through airport, they're putting special places where you can stand, so you maintain distance. Same with when you go to the gate now, people can't be stuck behind each other. There's going to be different places where they can stand. All the hotels, a lot of hotel partners have said all their dining has been cut into almost half. So this way, instead of a table beside a table, there's every other space there is a table. Buffets, they're eliminating it, or some of them have actually, we just got off a call yesterday, they're going to keep the buffet, but customers don't serve themselves. Someone is behind that serves them, and there still be distance. So every company today is following stringent protocols to make sure the customer is safe. Again, the customer also has to be smart and follow that. The reality, they can put 1,000 different things, but if we don't respect that, it's not going to work. So the onus is on all of us to make sure we respect that and follow it. But everybody is doing it. There isn't a single company today that is not following all these different protocols to make sure the customers are safe.
Okay. And Wolf, one that came in again from somebody who I'm sure listening on Facebook there now, and it kind of goes to when you were talking about Ireland there, and what the kind of destination, and people or the customer and the client possibly looking for the same kind of experience that they would have had on a full custom guided vacation, but yet probably putting it into a smaller types group. And how do you see
Sure.
companies like you and some of the other companies who provide that?
Certainly a question that is of importance to our listeners and to us, first and foremost. And as Zeina said, there is already a layer of health protocols that will be introduced by the airports and the airlines. And we also know that in addition to what Zeina mentioned, that there will be an expectation from a guest and the traveler to comply by wearing a face mask, by adhering to all of the prescribed protocols. And for us, there is also a transportation, which is in most cases by coach. So we have made the decision based on physical distancing, best practices. Our operational team has decided to ensure that the group is the right size. So we're talking groups of say 22 to 26. I would say average 24. So that would be about half of the number we would carry under quote unquote normal circumstances. We have already done the training of our travel directors and are looking at absolutely upscaling their well-being protocol knowledge. And we are also working with our transportation providers to ensure that already spanking clean coaches are sanitized at the end of every day, 3 times a day. All of the surfaces on the coach will be wiped and sanitized. And we will certainly change the behavior on the coach to reflect both as a collective and as individual responsibility. No food, no drinks, only packaged goods. And when we come to the attractions, it will be on us and on our partners to ensure that they also adhere to these protocols. So for our guests, there will be a level of confidence and knowledge that we have done the due diligence. As you know, Derek, having traveled with us, often local foods and wines and local traditions are of importance in our bringing the heart of the destination to our guests, and that will definitely change. There will be no finger foods on open plates. It will be individually wrapped and packaged foods if we're talking about foods, and similar to other sampling of local specialties, and to using the restaurants and trattorias, as we love to use local establishments to ensure that we are contributing to the well-being of local community in every way. They will have to comply to those standards. So in one word, quite a lot of moving parts and constant vigilance, utmost discipline, and contribution of every individual traveler, as much as clear oversight and discipline of the tour operator and all of the suppliers involved in the chain.
Thank you very much. Here's a question for both of you. And it's probably the number one question that will be on the mind of every consumer. Given all of these changes and all of the things that will have to take place, whether it's lower numbers on airplanes, lower numbers on coaches, lower number on cruise ships, what are you hearing with regard to how that's going to impact the cost and whether or not that will drive prices up, or are companies looking at this as an opportunity now to bring people back because of the time that has taken? Tough question. Zeina?
Okay, thank you. Based on all the conversations we've had, whether it's airline partners, tour partners, FIT partners, they are all committed to make sure they keep the price almost similar, maybe a bit more, but not much more, to make sure they get the customer back on those seats or on all those tours. Uh, Everybody is suffering. So the reality of it, they suffered, we suffered, everybody is suffering. But for us to really stimulate the market, if the prices, if everybody wants to make up the money right away, nobody would afford to go back, sit on a plane or fly anywhere. So all of them, and I think we all are in the same boat, is we want to make sure the prices are good enough that everybody does go back to travel. And I think it's like short-term pain for long-term gain. And I guess Wolf, from he's on the other side of it, but I'd like to hear what he has to say.
Similar sentiment. However, I would like to kind of introduce a bit of a different comparison. We're currently trying to create a bridge between the old way of how we traveled, which was mass travel, if I may use that nomenclature, and to the right size group and right way travel. And this bridge will certainly not be designed to recoup the monies lost in the short term. This bridge and all of our new programs that we're working at are really designed to respond to the need of our guests. Because yes, we are in travel and we are all used to leading a pretty high-paced life when it comes to business travel, but so are our guests. They are not traveling for work. They're not traveling with their families. They haven't been abroad in a while. And we want to really respond to their needs and to give this new travel a good starting point. I believe that the situation will change very quickly once the borders start opening. I will quote a line from one of the information pieces from the Swiss government, where they said that we need to be as fast as possible and as slow as necessary. So there will be this transition period that will bring us into the new era of travel. And as suppliers, we feel bound by duty to our guests, to our retail partners, to our partners on site, to do the best we can for everybody in the chain. Will that affect prices to some extent? I believe yes. But the point isn't really going to be, as Zeina says rightly, to recoup the money in first 2 weeks and say this is it. No, that is certainly not the point. The point is to restore the way of travel that will be healthy, inquisitive, that will satisfy the needs of our guests. And I believe that people will be, when planning travel in the future, especially the travel in our category, they'll be a lot more thoughtful about making a decision. Because sometimes you would say, oh, I haven't been there and it's always piqued my interest, so I want to go there. That may be Egypt or Israel, like Israel has a great opportunity, I believe. Or it may be, I have had so much fun in Sicily when I was there last, I would like to repeat that and see how it looks now. So I think we'll have all kinds of scenarios, and we are simply working to be ready to deliver on those.
Okay, well, thank you. I guess the last, just before we finish off, because it's we're almost up to the half an hour that I really wanted to put aside for this. Again, and just in closing, as an agent for me, I mean, one of the things I have found with all of this, all of a sudden, you realize how vulnerable we all are with regard to our businesses and just our own personal travel, and how all of this has affected the world. I guess there's one other big thing that's happening within the world that outside of even the COVID that really, and that's some of the instability that we're seeing play out across the border, and also play out, not partly because of COVID, because of being cabin bound and people But I mean, there's a lot of other societal things that are causing that. But I think it may be affecting people's thought to thinking about travel in the future, and whether or not certain places will be safe to travel, and because of protests and all of those kinds of things. How do you think that's going to impact how we recover? I know it's a loaded question, but yeah.
As Wolf said, I think people are going to look, especially in the short term, to stay in Canada or do,
Exactly.
staycations. Maybe go to. I live in Quebec. Maybe go to Ontario. Go to Halifax. People are going to foremost and first look in Canada, and again, the U.S. Other than a couple of cities that people want to really go to. Personally, I wouldn't be venturing anywhere there, but that's Zeina personal, just because of Today, honestly, I was going to post on Facebook to say, thank God I'm a Canadian. Like, that was going to be just my pure message. We are different. It's Canada, or I think the Caribbean, because we do know that, again, I'm talking short term, the number of cases they have or experienced was really nothing compared to other places. But US, across the board, I would not think, I or anybody should be thinking of it short term.
A quick response. I would use another metaphor. This is almost growing from childhood into the adult state again. So it's going to be small steps.
Yeah.
And we are fortunate and proud to be in Canada and to be Canadians. And there is so much to discover in our own backyard. So we are planning a number of domestic programs, Trafalgar guided vacations. I think that people will be doing driving holidays within the province. Fortunately, all of our provinces are pretty spacious. So I'm thinking of going to Sudbury and Thunder Bay, because I've been there so many times on business and I know I loved it, but I've never had time to spend over there. And I recommend to our guests the initial stage, domestic travel, and then we go through the corridors into the bubbles, and then the world will open before we notice it.
Again, for Canada, we need to make sure that the different provinces open. And that's True. One of the things we have been monitoring closely, because every province has its own now, rules.
Set of rules, yeah.
That's it. So the issue is going to be unless we're open, then again, people can't even go anywhere. So again, Quebec, we've opened. We welcome anybody that wants to come over, but not, Ontario said 4 more weeks it's closed. So yes. That is going to be another huge impact on what people do.
But I would like to say that judging by Europe's experience, once things start opening,
definitely,
it does go pretty much exponentially. Mm-hmm. It's not a linear movement anymore. It suddenly starts opening up. And I have to say, we have to be patient, but we also have to be ready, and it will open soon.
Well, again, thank you very much. And just from my standpoint, as a travel agent, and speaking to the masses who will hopefully see this on Facebook as after the fact and are listening now. For me, it's the key is the planning, sitting down with an advisor, no matter who your advisor is from any part of this country, to be able to make sure that whatever your plans are, whatever your bucket list is that you're trying to do and trying to get to, that is well planned out, and that you're well prepared for a surprise like COVID. Please God, we never have that kind of a surprise again. But it has taught us to, I hope that we plan more, we use the experience that's out there and getting to your bucket list and your vacations. And whether that's a smaller, reduced one, like you were saying, Wolf, or it's just in Canada for the time being, or no matter where it's to be able to use the professionals that are out there, and so that we can use the companies who are doing all of the works and getting things ready for people to start to move again.
In thanking to you and Zeina for the opportunity to be here, I would like to point out one fact, and I would also like to say that this is the time when travel agents who are knowledgeable, who are using their time wisely, even in a little bit of a downturn, are learning, upscaling their destination knowledge, upscaling their knowledge of tour operators and well-being practices. Those agents are really super valuable in planning our trips. And in Derek, we have a really great expert and a proven track record agent. When Trafalgar Canada instituted the award for the single best travel agent in the country, the big T for Trafalgar, Derek Windsor was the first receiver, the first laureate of the best travel agent in Canada. So I am leaving you all in absolutely capable and excellent hands.
Well, thank you very much, Wolf. I appreciate that. And thank you, Zeina. It's wonderful.
Thank you for having us.
To everybody who's listening, I hope to be able to do this more often, and we'll get other parts of the industry and so that people can feel comfortable to travel again. And we all have hope, but the biggest thing for everyone is to stay safe, do what you have to do to protect yourself, protect others, but most of all, be kind to one another.
Use a travel agent and buy insurance.
And buy insurance.
That too.
Yeah, that's all part of it.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Zeina.
Afternoon,
Thank you,
guys.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.